Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. First off, thank you very much, everyone that has joined us. Welcome to our September Microsoft Federal Business Application webinar. My name is Craig Harris, and I'm a technical specialist with Microsoft Federal's Business Applications team. We have some pretty cool content lined up for you all today. I'll quickly run through an introduction and overview of our platform. We'll give some community updates around the business application space. And then we get to our main event, which for today will be all around our hyperautomation story and how the business application solution stack enables intelligent automation across your entire workload. Finally, we'll do a question and answer session where you'll have the opportunity to come off mute and ask any questions of the experts we have here today. And please note, when we get to the Q&A session, it will not be recorded. So please feel free to speak freely if you're comfortable. There's a lot of text here, but to summarize, this is a Microsoft digital event, and our goal is to create a safe, inclusive space where our community can benefit from all the expertise each of you and our team can share. We reserve the right to remove folks if things become disruptive. Also, we want to be completely transparent that since we captured your contact information when you signed up for this webinar, we want you to know how we use that information, in addition to how you can ask to have your information removed from our list. We'll send emails pertaining to future webinar sessions, links to the recording today once we share it online, and potentially product updates that we think our community would benefit from. Again, you can always let us know that you would like to remove your contact info from that list. And please just respond to us when you see those messages, and we'll make sure your data is removed. We'll leave cameras off for our guests today, but the chat is open. We have experts monitoring to help answer any questions you may have. And once we get to the Q&A portion, which again will not be recorded, we'll give you the ability to come off mute and ask a question. Please just raise your hand during that portion and we'll call on you. We love maintaining an open and sharing community experience. So we posted a Microsoft Federal Business Applications repo, link shared here, that has all sorts of information that you can benefit from. We post white papers, sample demo solutions, and have a special page carved out for this webinar. You'll see links to all our past webinars, which are hosted on YouTube, and see links to upcoming sessions. When you access the video itself, we load timeline links so you can skip over folks like me talking and get right to the good stuff. So when we say Microsoft Business Applications, what do we mean? Let's look at Microsoft's solution stack as a spectrum. Office 365 represents our off-the-shelf offerings. They simply work, and you don't need to customize much. And at the other end are custom-built apps using Azure Apps and Infrastructure. And as we move closer to the left, you have our low-code app developer solutions that allow you to configure or customize based on your needs within a solution framework. This is the Power Platform. There are also first-party apps built on the Power Platform that have been customized for you to suit specific workloads. These are our Dynamics 365 solutions. And together, this center area is the primary focus of this webinar series and where our team lives. These are Microsoft's business applications. And we can't give a community update without talking about last week's Microsoft Power Platform Conference in Orlando. Literally thousands of platform makers attended, including myself and several from our team. And it was a personal highlight for us. We got to engage directly with Microsoft leadership, shown here in Charles Lamanna's keynote, and the Q&A panel with leadership across the entire Power Platform. Scott Hanselman, the world's okayest developer, and Scott Hunter and Julia Casper showed us what Fusion development could look like right on stage in a live demo. And finally, we got to hear from you, the greater community, and hear how the platform has impacted your lives. Please consider attending next year. It will be held in Las Vegas in the fall of 2023, and more information will be coming soon on how to register. And this one's super fun. Our team is considering hosting a future webinar event, much like this one, but in person at our Reston garage. Our garage spaces are set up to be a true maker's dream house, and we'd love to get in person to engage with our federal community. To gauge interest, our team is going to drop a poll in the Teams meeting and leave a few minutes to have folks answer. And the question is, are you interested in meeting in person at the Reston Garage for a future event? Just a simple yes or no. And if you have any trouble with the poll, you can just drop your answer in the chat. And before I finally stop talking and we get to the folks that you really want to see, please know that your feedback matters to us. Please feel free to use the link posted here to submit feedback on how we can improve or what future topics you'd like to see. And with that, I'm finally going to stop doing the intro bit and stop talking and hand it off to the real stars of this show, Ashvini Sharma and Christine Jefson. So if you please go ahead and take over and
wonderful.
Thank you very much.
You. Thanks a lot, Craig. Can you hear me? Am I coming through?
We can hear you.
Yes,
well.
you are.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you all. My name is Ashvini, and I'm joined with Christy as well. Just by way of introduction, I've been with Microsoft for about little over 24 years now. And I've been working on just different products across the board. Some of them I'm sure you've used, including SQL Server, Excel. I was part of the Excel team for almost a decade, working on the BI, the business intelligence capabilities inside Excel. And for a few years now, I've been part of the Power Automate team, where I lead the automation that runs in the cloud, as well as our ecosystem of connectors that's available for you to connect to different systems just right out of the box. So this session is all about hyperautomation. And really, there are three things we'll cover. The first one will be just low-code motivation for folks that are not as familiar with the low-code movement and really what it unlocks from a capability perspective. I'll give a very quick overview of Power Platform for those not familiar with that as well. And then we'll do a deep dive into the hyperautomation capabilities also. So to start out with, let's start right from the top of how Microsoft is looking at the needs for this decade. Really, these are two very impressive, just grounding data points that we've seen. The first one is 500 million more apps will be created in the next 5 years, more than that have been combined in the last 40 years. And the second one is half of the digital work that people are doing can be automated with current technology. So it just reinforces to me what the need is from a digital capability perspective, as well as what the technology is that is available today. For some jobs, it's more than 50%. For some jobs, it's less than 50%. But just as an average, half of the work can be automated with just current technology, let alone when AI takes over and we have flying cars and all. So that's just the fact of the need from a digital perspective. The other fact is that there are just not enough developers in the world. And there is a developer shortfall every year, about 1 million developer shortfall. These are professional developers that have been trained to write code. And the reality is that super majority of companies out there struggle to hire tech talent, including Microsoft as well, because there's just not enough skill set to be able to go use that as the only way of solving for the surging digital demand. So from an industry perspective, what we've said is, hey, let's go out and let's teach everyone to code, and there is a place for that. There's a place for teaching coding in elementary schools and middle schools and high schools and colleges. There's a place there for upskill programs as well for people that are working in other domains to bring them into coding as well. But really, that can't be the only way that we can solve for this. And Microsoft believes that our potential, really our opportunity, is to be able to turn everyone into a developer with low code. I'd say it's more than an opportunity, it's our imperative given the demands that we have going in. And in fact, one of the reasons that I switched over, personally, I switched over to the automation space was just the definition of what is expected from a modern information worker are fundamentally changing in this decade. It used to be a while where the descriptor of can you be an information worker was if you were able to build documents or slide decks or Excel workbooks by yourself. In fact, one of the census questions, I believe in the Netherlands, asks people, hey, can you work with spreadsheets as a marker for sophistication of a population? And that just became a thing. It became an expectation about what is an information worker, and the definition of one is one that can create and self-service and create these artifacts by themselves and share them with their work group. In this decade, what we believe is that capability of an information worker to solve for their own needs will expand even more, especially given the skill set of people that are coming out of colleges and the expectations that they have of being digitally native. They expect to be able to create their own applications. They expect to be able to create their own dashboards and share them with others, or automations, or even chatbots. They should be able to do that. And that is fundamentally what we think is unlocking over this decade. So super exciting for us. And for that, let me switch to just a video of a person that every time I see this, I get inspired by somebody that's gone through this journey. So let me play this video.
I don't just want to make a living, I want to make a difference. When I left school at 16, my dad was working in Heathrow at the time, and this opportunity came up as becoming a security officer. I thought, what a great opportunity, my dad used to take me here to watch seaplanes and everything. So why not work for a company or an airport like Heathrow? I've been a security officer for 13 years. When I saw the amount of paper and time we were spending, I saw an app would be a great solution for these problems to be solved. About a year ago, I started learning about the Microsoft programs. I went home and I looked at that blog from Power Apps, and it said, this is how you can build an app. And I thought, why doesn't no one know this? Because this could have so much potential to change so many things. We have saved 11,000 sheets of paper and saved around 288 hours of manual input data. Going from paper to digital has been amazing. It doesn't matter what your skill levels are like, anybody can build this app.
Him with his community of super users have created 17 Power Apps that are already being used across our airport, and this is just the tip of the iceberg.
My name is Sam Saini, and I'm a IT user adoption specialist at Heathrow. There's no limit of what you can create with new technology. I'll create a new career.
Yes, that's a great example of somebody that's gone through this journey of really understanding what the technology is available today, and finding a way of empowering themselves, of being able to, in this case, replace paper processes with applications that they can share with others in the work group as well, and just drive their whole organization, in this case Heathrow Airport, forward with higher efficiency. And when more personal satisfaction, more growth, more learning as well that goes along with all this discovery that's happened. So low code really is intended to empower everyone within your organization. We have the notion of somebody we call citizen developer. And these are folks that if you can build Excel workbook with formulas, you are ripe. You have the sophistication of being able to work with technology. You can have you can understand the notion of cells, understand the notion of formulas, and that should be sufficient from a sophistication perspective for you to be able to build applications and automations or dashboards and chatbots by itself. But really, one of the principles that we drive for is to enable citizen developers, but have a scalable platform that allows IT administrators or professional developers to be able to build the solutions by themselves as well for their needs. And of course, if you're a professional developer, you have very professional needs. You manage mission critical deployments, and you want to build systems that are used by thousands of people across your organization, perhaps tens of thousands of people across your org, and you need the rigor that goes along with the tooling as well. So the platform is designed to start small and allow you to scale for your needs as well. So Power Platform, just for those not familiar, just very quick overview of Power Platform. It contains of a product called Power Apps. Power Apps allows anyone to build web and mobile applications. Those citizen developers that I mentioned can build web and mobile applications by themselves. It provides out-of-the-box connectivity to different systems and guardrails and governance and security in place. Power BI is our way for anybody to be able to explore data, share dashboards with others, and for others to make data-driven decisions, and really for your organization to embrace the data culture itself. Power Virtual Agents is an offering still part of the Power Platform that allows anybody in your organization to be able to build chatbots. Very frequently, what we see people doing are, for example, you may be a human resources department and you're getting so many frequently asked questions from other employees. And what you could do is just have your knowledge base be accessible to somebody through a chatbot experience, or it could be outside facing. It could be a customer service experience, and you have a chatbot to deflect some of the questions your customers are getting over to a chatbot. And Power Automate, we'll spend the rest of the session on Power Automate. Power Automate is a low-code approach to building automations by yourself and then sharing them with others as well. Now, there are a few other principles that we build the experience with. One of them was a scalable platform. The other one, scalable from an experience perspective, any citizen developer can start up and go to professional developer. And this one is really for professional developers. One of the principles there is that we really are able to provide deep integration with the rest of services you may be using in the rest of Azure stack as well. So whether you're using Azure Functions, API management, Logic Apps, Cosmos DB, Dataverse as a database, whatever mechanism that you're using for the technology for that problem, you can also embrace all that through the rest of the Power Platform. So you can have controls that show up inside Power Apps, for example, that allow you to build the controls, and others can embed those controls within applications. You can wrap your services and make them available inside an app or automate or chatbots for them to be able to call your services as well. So there are numerous capabilities that numerous integration points that we provide, which is just available out of the box, so you don't have to spend a lot of time stitching different systems together. Within the Power Platform itself, one of the, how that principle applies from an integration perspective is, even though each product is individually valuable, they are designed to be better together. So I have a data alert that I use myself for any time any number of users that are using Power Automate crosses another million. We have a dashboard that tracks how many monthly active users we have. And anytime it crosses another million, I get an alert saying, hey, we crossed another million. And then I send an email to the team congratulating them on the impact that our technology is having. Or in a case of Power App, there's an example of a customs agent that, as they're walking, in this case, in a port in Europe, as they're walking on the ship and they have containers, to take a picture of the container that has the container number on the side. And the capability that we provide in the platform just extracts that number out of that picture and enters it into a backend system that essentially avoids the customs agent, in that case, writing it down on a piece of paper while on the boat, and then when they get back to their office to enter that in manually. So that's just another example of built-in integration scenario that just works. Virtual agent, similarly, there's a customer that is using a virtual agent bot to be the front end for the customer service experience. And if the agents that are based in the US are not available late in the night, then what the virtual agent does, it logs a ticket into their custom ticketing system, in which case, whenever the agents come back in 8 a.m. the next morning, then they can take a look at who are the outstanding customers I need to get back to. And that's just, again, it's just designed as a integrated offering from a platform perspective. That's designed to work better together in these cases. So even though we're talking specifically about Power Automate in this session, please be aware that you can integrate this capability with the rest of these other modalities, these other experiences as well. Great. So that was just a quick overview of Power Platform, really what we're trying to do from a low-code enablement perspective. And I thought we'd talk about one specific scenario, and this is a scenario that's very common across our different customers. This is one that our customer, in this case, Coca-Cola United Bottlers, is open to us sharing with others as well, which is just very gracious of them, because it really showcases how work gets done in a real organization. Right. In this case, this is a scenario for freestyle cartridge replacements, where that they have freestyle machines, and it's just a very manual process to go through the replacement process for a cartridge. And it involves working in Excel, working in this case with SAP system as well, working with documents. At some point, they actually go out in this process, they used to print everything out and then have someone carry this over to another department. And that other department would scan the documents in and then enter this data into their purchase order and invoicing system. And again, I'm not highlighting this as an example of something that is rare and exceptional. Really, when we talk to hundreds of companies across the world, this is the truth. This is how work happens across the world, using these systems that were ad hoc. They evolved over time, and perhaps using paper as the lowest common denominator to do communication between different divisions or departments. So this is how the work happens. Now, in this case, what they found was they had a huge backlog of people, and especially during the COVID time when there were fewer staff that were available to go fulfill these orders. And essentially what they were up against is a need to, whether they should hire 10 full-time employees to take care of the backlog, or do they do something different? So they picked Power Platform to go solve for this. And in this case, it's a very high-level view of the overall process end-to-end, where the agent itself, the human in this process, is just the first one that is entering in the order into the, in this case, SAP CRM system. And once that happens, then what you see here is automation that stitches together so many different investments that they're using. They use Azure itself, so they're using the blob storage or the data factory, or the AI capabilities to be able to extract from documents that are received from suppliers by email, to be able to automatically extract that and have an end-to-end workflow that allows them to go automate this, avoiding the need to hire 10 full-time employees to go do this as well. So that's a very common example that we see. Usually there's an Excel somewhere. Usually there's some ERP system like an SAP. Usually there's a lot of heavy lifting that people end up doing manually from a people perspective. And with the promise of automation, of course, is to speed this up so people are free to work on other projects. So that's one example. Microsoft as a company is using Power Automate ourselves, and we've got numerous different applications and automations that are getting built. We have about over 350,000 active automations. Over 70,000 employees are using Power Automate every month to do automation themselves. And this spans all the way from personal automation. I'll show you a couple of examples of how I use it myself, but also back-end processing. For auto processing was all, we used to have a team of 400 people across Microsoft whose job it was to enter orders that we were getting from different customers. And much of that, almost all of it, has been automated now. And those people are free to do other things now. So just a couple of examples just to ground real value that we are seeing from customers. Now, when we do hear back from customers, there are essentially 3 clusters that we find of needs. And what these are is, I'll start from the bottom left. These are, customers say there are so many different software as a service offerings, there's so many different modern services they're using, and they have the need to orchestrate across them. Now, they may be using a Jira system or a different system for the CRM, or different systems for doing their dev management, or their backend processing for invoices. And they want to stitch these all together. And in this case, they're all modern systems that have APIs, that have a way to be able to automate it, but they just want to be able to orchestrate across them. So that's one cluster. Another cluster we see very commonly is paper documents. So much of the world's capacity is going to scanning documents and entering them in manually into a digital system. And really, that's a second need that they say, give us a way to make it easier for people to get the tedious work done around paper documents. And finally, third one is legacy systems. These are systems that were built at a point in time, some time back, and they're just working absolutely fine. These could be mainframe systems, it could be desktop systems, it could be internet web app as well. And they really were designed to do what they're doing super well, but they were just not designed with automation in mind. So just a great example, a quick one here is an airport in Europe has training that their employees need to take for compliance. And over the time, the airport has grown so much that the number of courses that they need to take, the compliance requirements have grown so much that for every employee, when they have to find out whether an employee is in compliance or what are the trainings they need to take to get back into compliance, per employee, the report that they run takes about 5 minutes. And there was no automation for this. So there was a team of 4 people who just repeatedly go look at these different employees that they had 5 minutes at a time. And while that is running on a system, they'll try to do some other work, or maybe they take some breaks. But really, what they replaced that was with a software bot that would wait instead for the 5 minutes while they're going through and modernizing the rest of their system as well. So that's the third cluster that we hear from are legacy systems that have no APIs, were not intended with automation in mind, but are really slowing the execution of processes down within organizations. So from a capability perspective, what we provide from Power Automate is a hyperautomation platform that allows you to combine all of these different systems together. Usually it's not just one or the other. It's usually not just the modern systems or not just AI, or not just RPA. Usually it's a combination of all of them. And to be able to describe one example, I'll just show a very quick example of an invoice processing with Power Automate, and to highlight how different things are with a hyperautomation platform. So in this case, very simple example of Power Automate automation. In this case, an invoice arrives in Outlook in probably a shared inbox. And then the email contains multiple attachments for invoices. And what you want to do is use AI to be able to just extract information from those invoices. Once you get the invoices extracted for each of the attachments, then you want to send it over in Teams to a person, in case your organization is using Teams, saying, hey, this invoice came in, what would you like me to do? And then the human in the loop needs to make a call. And maybe somebody like me, I make all my approval answers on a Friday afternoon. So the automation will wait for me until I come back to it. And then I can just, as a batch, I just go one after another and I go make a decision. And then if it's approved, then I want to enter that data into a legacy system, which is a desktop app. It was never designed with automation in mind, but this is the app that our system, our company is using to track invoices. And I want to go invoke that automation and then send a confirmation email itself. So there is a few elements of it. You saw the modern cloud service in Outlook, service in Exchange waiting, triggering the automation, AI embedded, this intelligent automation embedded into your process itself, human in the loop, making the software do what it does best and relying on the people for what they do best, which is decision making and all the emotional intelligence and the strategic thinking. And then a legacy application or robotic process automation, in this case, to be able to automate something that runs on the desktop and obviate the need for a human to go type that in. So a very simple example of how a hyperautomation platform allows you to use the best tool for the job that you need to do. Now, what we saw this real example with a different customer. They're using a desktop automation, an RPA tool, and what they essentially had was an Outlook email, right? The Outlook, the desktop application, waiting for emails to show up, and every 5 minutes they would see if there's a new email that showed up on the desktop Outlook. Well, you don't need to do that if your platform allows you to just rely on the cloud with its scale to be able to do it. In fact, all of these capabilities, they were using an OCR capability on the desktop. You need to do that because a cloud service can, when the data is born in the cloud, it can also be processed in the cloud itself. You don't need to have desktops waiting for approval. With the one component where you do need a custom environment, maybe a desktop, maybe a virtual machine. Okay, great. So just for that component, you can rely on automation of that desktop. But the rest of it gives you scalability, gives you more resilience as well. Just a better way of doing automation. So that's an example of a hyperautomation platform. I just want to give you a quick walkthrough of capabilities, just so you're aware of what's available to you already. One of the principles that we deliver our capability is to make it available where people do their work every day, which includes within SharePoint, within Excel, within Teams, in this case, from an automation perspective, to be able to have on any SharePoint list, you'll see at the top, there's a automate button to be able to just help you do the automations on the contents of that list. Similarly, in Excel, there's a Power Automate add-in that's available for you to be able to, for example, if you're doing a webcast like this and you want to go do an approvals for different webcast submissions, then you can go kick off that process directly from within Excel. Or within Teams itself, one of the examples that I'd like to show here is this is available to you directly within your Power Automate app in Teams. And these are notion of templates that are available. So here's a template for using for automation directly from within Teams. And very simple experience for you to configure, in this case, notifying a channel when you'll be out of office, but things like follow up on a message. So I use this myself on a template, which is sometimes I get emails late at night or Teams messages late at night. And I want to remind myself to get back to the person next morning. So I use an automation to just say follow up on a message, and it sends me a notification at the time that I've asked it to notify me. So it could be 8 a.m. the next morning. Power Automate notifies me, hey, there's a message waiting for you to get back to as well. So I don't have to respond after hours. So all those capabilities are available to you inside the Power Automate app, inside Teams. Now, from a desktop capability perspective, Power Automate is already built into Windows 11. And if you are a Windows 10 user, then you also have access to to Power Automate as well, that you can download and you can use without any licensing requirements. And what that enables you to do is to launch an example. So I'll showcase an example. Again, a very common example that we see, which is data that is in an Excel spreadsheet, a bunch of rows in Excel spreadsheet, and you want to enter this data one row by one row into another application. So in this case, what we're doing is running the automation just directly on our desktop. It fetches data from Excel. It's just entering data into the legacy application. In this case, it's a custom app that we have. And it's just helping do this faster without errors, and the person could be doing something else at the same time as well. So all that is built into Windows 11 as a use case for doing desktop automation. These are also, we're starting to roll this out across our different geographies. One of the capability is to be able to host these RPA bots. So when you do need the desktop environment to be available to do this processing, like entering in data to your custom invoicing app, well, sometimes at the end of the month, end of the quarter, or right before tax season, for processing forms, for example, there's a huge spike in the demand that's required. And what we want customers to be able to do is just dynamically scale the number of bots that you need, where the infrastructure allows you to scale to carry the load, and then it doesn't have to be a perpetual allocation of capacity. You can just you can dial this back down in case you don't need that capacity anymore. So this capability, where Microsoft is hosting RPA bots, is now available in preview for essentially RPA as a service offering. So that's on the desktop automation capability. On the intelligence capability, one of the components of Power Platform is called AI Builder. And what AI Builder, really our philosophy with AI Builder is to wrap just leading state-of-the-art AI capabilities that exist in Azure in a very simple citizen developer friendly experience where you can start to have real use cases that you could apply without being a data scientist. So if you've got a form coming in, whether it's an invoice or so that you want to extract data from, or it's a tax form you want to extract data from, well, there's a module for just extracting, converting data from semi-structured into structured. Or if you've got a bunch of text that's coming in and you want to go, let's say you want to classify the questions coming in and route it to the right team, well, there's a category classification that helps you do the classification of what the input is coming in and categorize it and then follow up separately, and so on and so forth. There's just several different modules that are available out of the box for you to be able to build applications or automations within with the AI capability. So this is available for, as I mentioned, for both structured and semi-structured. So in the case, invoice is a very common example, or even tax document, and you folks have a lot of SF documents as well that you need to be able to extract. And a lot of people may be doing that today, is spending a lot of time processing those documents yourself. So if it's standardized forms, then you should be able to just get those, use AI to be able to extract the data. This is advancing at a furious pace. It's just support for handwriting recognition, supporting for different languages. It's just progressing so fast that you're able to offload more and more of these capabilities over to automation. Coming soon to government clouds are also unstructured documents. So when we have things like statement of works or contracts, where sometimes the indemnification clause is on page 2, sometimes it's just so long it's on page 12, and being able to really extract structure out of these unstructured documents is capability that's available in our public clouds. It's rolling out to our government clouds as well. So those are the three. We talked about the modern apps and services. We talked about RPA or desktop automation capabilities, and we talked about AI capabilities as well. Now, one of the other, finally, the other area that we hear from customers is, hey, help me understand how work is happening across my organization so that I can optimize it and I can streamline and I can automate the work. And for that, we provide 2 offerings as part of Power Automate. The first one is called task mining, and the second one is called process mining. And they're intended for slightly different scenarios. With the task mining case, what I can do is I, as a user, can set up a recording. I can essentially record how I do work myself. So how do I process an invoice, or how do I process one of the standardized forms? And you may provide your own variation of that. And we can get an end-to-end view of how our work group is processing these documents themselves. What are the steps that are taking longest? What are the steps that need to be optimized? Maybe some step in the process was just organically created a few years back, and we need to go change that, remove it or automate it, and then help jumpstart that creation of automation directly from the discovered process. So that's what task mine is intended for. It helps you generate a process map where your business users can record the way that they're doing work. You can get end-to-end visibility, and then you can choose how to act on that understanding. Whereas a process mining allows you to look at the signals that are getting created from your backend systems. So this could be, in our case, could be SAP system, could be just even Azure DevOps if you're using Azure DevOps for doing your dev management. The fact that different tasks go through different stages, where you can get visibility into the different stages of, if in this case, if you are tracking an order all the way through its different systems, then as long as you have that identifier for the order, then you can track through what are the systems where it's taking the longest, what are the steps that are maybe repetitive that you end up going back and forth that you need to go optimize. So process mining would be to just help you understand, visualize and understand the backend processes and how efficient or inefficient they are, so you can optimize them. So this is also part of the Power Automate offering. It's under the Process Advisor bucket. That when you go to Power Automate, you'll see it under Process Advisor. So the last slide, just to summarize it, our offering, Microsoft offering, really, when we talk to customers about why they're choosing Microsoft's offering versus somebody else's, really these are the 4 points that come out. The first one is around pricing and the cost of doing automation with Microsoft versus doing it with somebody else. It's just when you look at the cost, not just from an acquisition perspective, but building it and running it, and the whole community thing that Craig talked about in the beginning of how the community is helping you be successful with it. Well, a lot of that is just cheaper with the Microsoft platform. The second one is around trusted enterprise vendor that they have relationship with. They want to extend the relationship to go extend it to cover automation as well. They have trust with the security and governance through our behavior in the past as well. And they want to they have trust that Microsoft understands them as a business vendor, and they want to go extend that relationship. The third one is something we call internally, automation is not an island. And this ability for you to be able to integrate this with the rest of the artifacts your team may be building. There could be applications, could be chatbots, could be dashboards, could be just other experiences you're building where you want to call automation yourself, or directly from within tools you're using already. Could be Office, Teams, Dynamics, Azure, whichever system that you're using. We're working with different ISVs as well. So we announced Adobe as an ISV. They have a need for, their customers are asking them for, before I do a sign of my documents, I want to do some work from a workflow perspective. And then after the documents are signed, I want to do some other work from a workflow perspective as well. So Adobe is embedding Power Automate directly within their Adobe Sign experience for their customers so that they can just get more done as part of the, they can automate more from their signing workflow. And then part of how we do that to simplify that for our customers is to just provide out-of-the-box connectors to more and more services over time, and just make sure it's easier for people to integrate, whether it's well-known first or third-party services or it's custom services you may be running just directly within your own enterprise, within your own organization, so that you can bring that into the reach of automation and application as well. And then finally, many customers have decided to go with Microsoft's automation offering because of really, it's a cloud-first offering, and it's a modern SaaS-based software as a service offering. And it allows people to scale. It's just easy to get started, less for them to deploy on premises. It's easy for them to ramp up as well. So we're able to bring, as part of that solution, we're able to bring the world-leading capabilities, whether it's AI capabilities, whether it's automation capabilities themselves, directly into that SaaS-based offering that evolves every week. So these are generally the 4 takeaways of why customers have decided to, in some cases, move off of other platforms to Microsoft's platform. In some cases, start their automation journey with Microsoft to begin with. And all this is really our intention is to help people, just empower people to focus on what matters the most, so that they can use all the capabilities that make us human and really thrive in their environment and bring the best value to their organization rather than spending the time and automating the tedium or the mundane tasks.